I'd like to move straight on to Jessica, Jessica van der Wal. Her very keen interest in the natural world originates from a childhood in rural Tanzania. So she's back in Africa. She's from the Netherlands, and she studied for her PhD a fascinating topic, studying the foraging ecology of tool use in the New Caledonian crows, and that was at the University of St Andrews in the UK. Jessica aspires to a career in which she can combine behavioral and ecological research in an effort to aid conservation. So I think that's a wonderful approach. And she really enjoys working alongside resident communities in her often remote study areas. And in so doing, she incorporates the social values of these communities and the associated logistics of that local environment, which is often quite specific, into her research and her planning. She also values science communication very highly, and is involved in a number of outreach activities that she has been involved in over the years. Jessica joined Professor Claire Spotterswood at the Fitzpatrick Institute of African Ornithology, in Cape Town as a postdoctoral research fellow, and that was in March of last year, 2019. And Jessica's postdoc is studying the ecology and evolution of the remarkable mutualism that exists between human honey hunters and greater honeyguides. And Jessica also manages the honeyguiding.me citizen science project, and that's what she's going to be talking to us about tonight. Jessica, the floor is yours, and we look forward to hearing all that you have to tell us about this fascinating topic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rick, for that kind introduction, and thank you also to Johan for setting such a great example of how it is done. So yeah, Rick has already said, my name is Jessica van der Wal. I'm at UCT at the Fitzpatrick Institute, and yeah, thank you for the BDI for giving me this opportunity to talk about a citizen science project that we just only launched 6 weeks ago. It's honeyguiding.me, and what we do is invite anybody that has ever seen a greater honey guide to share that sighting with us and elaborate whether they were guided by that bird or not. So to explain what I mean by guided, I will spend the first few minutes explaining what our research is about. Right, so I am part of the HoneyGuide research project. The PI of the group is Claire Spotterswood, and we are based at the Fitzpatrick Institute and the University of Cambridge. And in our main study site in northern Mozambique, we're also known as Projeto Cego, which is, Cego is the word for honey guide in the Yao language. And we're funded by the European Research Council. And what we're interested in is the ecology and evolution of the mutualism between honey guides and humans. Right, let me tell you what that is all about. This is a honey hunter from northern Mozambique, from the Yao tribe, and he's looking for wild honey because that's what his main income comes from selling that honey. But he's not very good at finding these bee nests himself, so he summons the help of the greater honey guide. The greater honey guide has a very particular chatter, which you should be able to hear now. I'll play it one more time. And what the bird does is announce its presence to the honey hunter, and will then fly typically a few hundred meters to a tree that has a bee's nest. The human will follow and will know where this bee nest is once the bird falls silent. So this is what we refer to as a honey guide human mutualism, and this is a very incredible, rare example of a wild animal and a human cooperating that has evolved through natural selection. So it's an interaction between wild animal and a human, where the bird provides information about the whereabouts of bees' nests, and the humans provide skills to access the content of bees' nests, which is called a mutualism. So when the bird takes the honey hunter to the bees' nest, as shown here, that the humans use smoke to subdue the bees, and then use tools to access the content of bee nests, from which they get honey, and then often many cultures leave out wax as a reward for the bird that the bird will consequently munch on. So we think that this cooperation is probably ancient, maybe as old or even older as our own species, and once it was quite common throughout Africa, but now we only know it to exist in only certain parts of Africa. If we look at the range of the greater honeyguide, we can see that it is quite common in sub-Saharan Africa. I must also note that the greater honeyguide is the only species that is known to guide humans. There are also other honeyguide species, as most of you know, and they although they eat wax, they do not guide the humans to bee nests. So there are only a few places left where the mutualism really thrives. And what I mean with thrive is in these areas, the honey hunting communities really rely on the bird to find wild honey. That is an important part of their income. In other places in Africa, birds are also known to guide humans. For example, in a lot of the Maasai tribes, it is known that they follow birds to bee nests, but this is quite spontaneous. It might be done when they are out herding their cattle, and they might come across a guiding honey guide and harvest some honey for a snack, but not in that same way as the Yao honey hunting community in northern Mozambique and the Hadza in Tanzania and some other places. These are the two places that we study this mutualism. But it's very interesting to think about what is happening in these other places where the bird does exist, but we're not quite sure what is going on. In these places, have the birds lost interest of guiding humans? So there are a few reasons of why honey hunting is the mutualism is disappearing. Is alternative access to sugar, so a decrease in need for wild honey. You know, in places where you can buy sugar, you don't need wild honey anymore as a source of sugar. And beekeeping practices. Here you see quite a local beehive, but there are also more sophisticated versions of that as well. So this is what the honeyguiding.me citizens project is based on. We want to find out where the honey guide is still guiding. So the extent of the current extent of the guiding behavior throughout sub-Saharan Africa. So 6 weeks ago, on the 3rd of July, we launched honeyguiding.me, and what we are asking is people, all bird enthusiasts across Africa, to share their sightings of the greater honey guide and specifying whether they were guided or not. And what we like to do is map this current extent of the guiding behavior and track it over time, and in the process also understand how honey guides acquire this ability to engage with humans, or might have lost this ability to engage with humans. On our website, we provide ample information about the project, as well as honey guides in general, with clips and videos on how to know whether a honey guide is guiding or not. And we also have the website available in 3 different languages: English, French, and Portuguese, in the hope to be able to reach as many people as possible. This website was designed by Dr. Renee Navarro, which many of you will be familiar with as well. We also have a poster which very simply says what information we are interested in. We're interested in its location. We would like to know if it was a juvenile or an adult. Juveniles have bright yellow chests and are very distinct from adults. so if you know that information, that would be great. And whether it guided you or not is important information. And yeah, if you were not guided, that is as interesting as when you were guided. And if you have anything else to add in terms of pictures, videos, recordings, or behavioral observations, we would love to hear from you as well. We are on Facebook and on Twitter, but on Facebook I found that the best way to do it is find all these Facebook groups that I post in, while on Twitter I'm reaching a different crowd. They're researchers or researchers in certain countries that I want to target and reach. So it's been quite interesting seeing how the different social media platforms evolve and what type of people engage in the different platforms. I also wrote a piece for African bird life, which you might have seen if you're into the birds, which I think received some nice attention. So I'm happy that happened. And yeah, in short, very short, so far we have 100 sightings that have been submitted through our website. I've noticed that most sightings are from South Africa, and obviously the challenge will always be reaching these birds in very remote areas. So yeah, I'm keep trying to find these key figures on Twitter, for example, trying to find researchers in Angola or other countries where I know there are a lot of honey guides, and as well as in Facebook groups. But I would really, yeah, very much like to just learn so much from all you experienced citizen scientists to know if you have any advice on how to, yeah, what to pay attention to and how to develop this further. Yeah, that was my presentation. How many minutes until load shedding? Oh, that was 1 minute ago. So fantastic.
Great. Thanks. Thank you so much, Jessica. Yeah. A wonderful, succinct presentation. Thank you for that, and a fascinating project indeed. Thank you, and we wish you all the best. I think you know, we've got people from all over the continent, you know, sharing this platform with us this evening, and I think we should all try our best to get the word out there and promote this project and tell others about it. I think that would be fantastic if in other African countries we can try and really do that. I think it's a fascinating project, and okay, I see Jessica's almost in darkness there. Lovely that you're still with us.
Yeah,
Thank
I used
you.
my phone to log back in.
Oh,
sorry, I did see. Yeah, I should definitely have specified that I am interested in both historic and current records. Even if you know the year, that is enough information for us. So anything, yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. So there's a wonderful citizen science project to contribute to as well, and
thank you.
The little bit of reading that I've done on this fascinating subject is really quite something, and it's very, very interesting, you know, to think of why honey guides guide humans, if they are, you know, if it's not an ongoing relationship, so to speak, that is being developed. I know my experience was in the Okavango swamps many years ago in the early 80s. So I'll submit that information to you, Jessica.
Oh, that would be brilliant. Yeah.
Well, Jessica's here, so does anybody have questions for her?
I'm just scrolling through the comments to see if there's any questions.
Yeah. Well, if I can just say, please do ask the questions. Type them up in the group chat area, and we'll address those for you.
So Jessica, oh sorry, go ahead,
Andrew.
Yeah, sorry, Jessica, just a question on male, female, and juveniles. Has this behavior been seen in male, female, and juveniles? I mean, when do juveniles learn this behavior?
Yes, correct. We see it in all in all stages and all sexes. But yeah, one of the hypotheses that we'll be testing with this data is, yeah, what's going on? Is it innate or is it learned? So that's one of the things that we can answer once we have that data.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Jessica.
Yes.
What about the bees? With that
What about
intensive
bees?
hunting, does it have any effect on the local bee population with these guys going out there intensively hunting honey?
So we study it in northern Mozambique mostly, where we study both. You know, we go along into the forest with the honey hunters. We ring the bird population, and also study the ecosystem services and effects. So we find that the honeybee density is very, very high in this area. So 2 by 1 square kilometer, I've found 40 bee nests. So and some of these bee populations or hives will die, but in other places they won't harvest the whole bee nest on purpose, so that the bees can build up again, so that they can return. Not necessarily for the bees' purpose, because they can come back the next year to harvest again, but in that way the bee population does stay alive. And yeah, something we're looking into as well as the effects of cutting, not cutting down, but opening up a tree trunk on the tree ecology as well. Yes.
Thank you.
Great, thanks for that, Steve. Any other questions?
Somebody's asking whether we used some of the Atlas data. Unfortunately, we can't really, because we are specifically interested in not only where you've seen a honey guide, but whether they guided you or not. It would be amazing if we can somehow implement that in, for example, BirdLasser as an extra question, were you guided or not? Which is, yes, on my to-do list to kind of ponder about.
Jessica, that's a brilliant question. I think that can be implemented very, very easily.
Is it? Yeah.
It can. Many of the species of conservation concern have a little flag, and when they are recorded by an atlaser, a little flag will tell them, you need to provide us with extra information here, and you can specify what information. So if you need any assistance, I can definitely facilitate that.
That'd be amazing.
So maybe just get in touch with me specifically what you want, and I can put you in touch with Henk Mill.
Fantastic. David is asking how seasonal honey production is. It is very seasonal. So yeah, obviously today I haven't talked about my research in specific, but what I did last year is across northern Mozambique, interview different honey hunting communities, and I would ask when is the best time to honey hunt, and that differed if it was in the lowlands or highlands. But there's definitely a peak when the bees are making the most honey. And hi Sam is asking whether I'm finding any spatial patterns behaving differently in different communities in the same region. We don't know yet currently. We don't know at this stage on a spatial scale. We do know that in some areas in Tanzania, although humans haven't harvested a bee's nest in the last 50 years, like in a protected area, some birds are still guiding, but not successfully. So they will like chatter, but then will not take you to a bee's nest. So there must be something innate, but that's something that we're very interested in figuring out, especially because honey guides are brood parasites. So they can't have learned anything from their parents. So that's another part of our research, is trying to understand whether this is a learned behavior or innate, or to what extent it is learned.
Fascinating.